Top 10 Smartest Smugglers of All Time. Hey viewers, welcome to our channel. We are back with another video. Today, we are going to tell you about 10 smartest smugglers of all time. Don't forget to subscribe our channel, and also hit the bell icon to get notified about our future videos. So let's start the video. Before starting the video, we would like to tell you about smuggling. Most of the people know about smuggling, but if you don't know, then listen carefully. Smuggling is the illegal transportation of objects, substances, information or people, such as out of a house or buildings, into a prison, or across an international border, in violation of applicable laws or other regulations. There are various motivations to smuggle. These include the participation in illegal trade, such as in the drug trade, illegal weapons trade, exotic wildlife trade, illegal immigration or illegal emigration, tax evasion, providing contraband to a prison inmate, or the theft of the items being smuggled. Let's move on to the list of top 10 smartest smugglers of all time. Number 10, Joaquim El Chapo Guzman. Joaquim Archibaldo Guzman Lora, the man who became known as El Chapo, Shorty, certainly looks unassuming, 5'6" tall, middle-aged, average looks. But his unremarkable appearance is deceptive. Guzman is the kingpin of the Sinaloa cartel, the source of the largest percentage of drugs imported into the United States every year: cocaine, marijuana, methamphetamine, and heroin, all delivered by the ton through elaborate land and air distribution channels. Guzman seemed fated for the drug trade. His uncle was one of the original Mexican drug smugglers, and young Joaquin was soon involved in the family business. He rose to prominence in the cartel quickly, as internecine fighting claimed rivals, both within the cartel and without. In 2006, violating a pact between cartels, Guzman ordered an assassination that spurred what has come to be referred to as the Mexican Drug War. This conflict between cartels has resulted in over 60,000 deaths and 12,000 kidnappings. Along the way, Guzman has become a billionaire and one of the most powerful men in the world. Number 9, Griselda Blanco. Not all drug kingpins are men. One of the most ruthless drug queenpins of all time was Griselda Blanco, nicknamed La Madrina, or the Godmother. Blanco was one of the key figures in the Medellin cartel, and has been credited with being a mentor to Escobar, who would eventually become her enemy. Blanco first made her name by developing bras and girdles designed to hide smuggled cocaine. She left Colombia in the early 70s and settled in Queens, New York, where she set up a large-scale operation. In 1975, she was indicted when the government intercepted a huge cocaine shipment. Blanco fled back to Colombia, but it wasn't long before she returned, this time to Miami. In the 80s, Blanco painted Miami white and red, white with cocaine, and red with the blood of drug rivals. One favorite method included drive-by shootings via motorcycle. Miami experienced a wave of Blanco-related crime, including a submachine gun attack at a mall. Blanco instigated anywhere between 40 and 250 murders, including a few personal ones. She shot one of her husbands at point-blank range over a drug deal. Eventually, Blanco was imprisoned, but that didn't stop her. On the inside, she plotted to kidnap John F. Kennedy Jr. in a plan that was foiled only by an insider's betrayal. Number 8, Ojoel Cardenas Guillen. Like certain mafiosos, it helps to have a memorable nickname if you're going to be a drug kingpin. Ojoel Cardenas Guillen has one of the grimmer ones, El Mata Amigos, or the Friend Killer. Cardenas earned the sobriquet by murdering his friend, Salvador Gomez, who was in line to assume control of the Gulf Cartel in 1996. Needless to say, the Gulf Cartel soon had a new top man. The U.S. Border Security Handbook describes the Gulf Cartel as particularly violent, and under Cardenas's leadership, it expanded its reach. He infiltrated the formerly incorruptible Mexican Special Forces branch of the military and amassed a private mercenary army that protected his interests and enforced his will. This army eventually became known as Los Zetas, the ZS, a brutal group more likely to behead an official than bribe him. With such an organization at his beck and call, Cardenas Cartel became one of the most powerful drug trafficking organizations in the world. Number 7, Frank Lucas. Originally from North Carolina, Lucas arrived in New York and soon got involved with local gangster Bumpy Johnson. After Johnson died, Lucas saw an opportunity to move into the drug trade that had up to that point been dominated by the Italian mafia. Using military contacts overseas, he established a distribution network directly from Southeast Asia. Poppies were grown and processed into heroin and flown in military planes back to the U.S. Lucas himself has asserted that heroin was sometimes packed into the coffins of soldiers being flown back from Vietnam. The purity of the heroin, combined with the violent tactics of Lucas towards competitors, and the corrupt New York City police force of the early 70s, ensured that Lucas was soon making millions of dollars a month. Police corruption would lead to a probe, which would eventually lead to Lucas. He went to jail, but turned government informant, which lessened his sentence. He lost all of his money, but he gained his freedom. His story was later told by Hollywood in the movie American Gangster, starring Denzel Washington. Although the film isn't very accurate, and some have accused it of making Lucas seem noble, it stands as evidence of America's fascination with its most well-known drug kingpin. Number 6. El Chapo. He once escaped from a high-security jail by hiding in a laundry basket. But now police in Mexico hope to keep hold of Joaquin Guzman, one of the world's most wanted drug barons. Known as El Chapo or Shorty because of his 5'6" stature, he was the leader of the Sinaloa cartel, which smuggles huge amounts of illegal drugs into the U.S. He was arrested in Sinaloa State, in a joint operation with U.S. anti-drugs forces, which had offered £3.2 million reward. Worth $1 billion, Shorty was called the most powerful drug trafficker in the world by the United States Department of the Treasury, and rated one of the most powerful people in the world every year, since 2009 by Forbes magazine. Number 5. Manuel Noriega. He might have been a major drug lord, but General Noriega was the CIA's drug lord. The Panamanian, who was military dictator of Panama from 1983 to 1989, was a prize American asset, but was also involved in drug trafficking and money laundering. He was central to the plan to swap guns for drugs with the Nicaraguan Contras. When the U.S. invaded Panama in 1989, Noriega was eventually captured as a prisoner of war. In Miami, he was tried and convicted of drug trafficking, racketeering, and money laundering, and sentenced to 30 years in prison. In 2011, he was extradited back to Panama to serve the rest of his sentence. Number 4. The Cocaine Godmother. One of the worst kingpins of all time was actually a queen pin, Griselda Blanco. The mobster matriarch made her first kill at the age of 11, when she reportedly shot another child from her neighborhood in Colombia. Blanco grew up to become a prime player in the Miami drug wars, turning Florida's party town into the 80s equivalent of Dodge City, while riding high on a tsunami of cocaine. Blanco had a penchant for smoking crack and throwing wild orgies. She was also an underwear entrepreneur, manufacturing lingerie with secret pockets for smuggling drugs. After serving a long prison stretch, she was eventually shot and killed by an assassin on a motorbike. Ironic, given that Blanco herself pioneered this method of eliminating rivals in her Miami heyday. Number 3. The Cat. Felix Mitchell was no ordinary West Coast gangster. Known as the Cat after classic cartoon character, Felix the Cat, he was a charismatic man about town, who went from high school dropout to multi-millionaire. He owed it all to heroin, which he distributed through California's housing projects with a little help from local kids. Mitchell was flamboyant, fashionable and weirdly adored as a folk hero, but it all came to an ugly end in 1986, when Felix was knifed to death in prison. What followed was a funeral of legendary proportions, with his body carried by horse-drawn carriage past thousands of grieving admirers. One radio personality compared it to Martin Luther King's passing. The slain drug lord also inspired a phrase, the Felix paradox, which describes a situation where the arrest of a major kingpin actually leads to a rise in crime and violence, thanks to the power vacuum it creates. Number 2. The Opium King. Kun Sa, aka the Opium King, wasn't just a drug lord. He was also a warlord, commanding a Burmese militia group while moonlighting as an international drug smuggler. From the 70s onwards, he was the major player when it came to flooding the United States with heroin. His product was, in the rather admiring words of the DEA, the best in the business. A shamelessly cocky character, even by the notoriously immodest standards of other drug lords, Kun Sa even offered to sell his entire drugs operation to the United States government. The US said no thanks, and Kun Sa eventually gave up the criminal overlord business to have a quiet retirement. And, unlike his bad guy brethren, he died not in a hail of bullets, but from natural causes. Number 1. Pablo Escobar. If one man could be said to represent the idea of a drug kingpin, that one man would be Pablo Escobar. While running the Medellin cartel out of Colombia in the 70s and 80s, Escobar's ruthless tactics ensured a steady flow of cocaine into America. Some sources estimate that 80% of the cocaine imported into this country came through Escobar's enterprise, some 15 tons per day at its peak. Escobar became one of the world's richest men, with an estimated worth of nearly $10 billion, through eliminating rivals and fostering corruption within the Colombian government. Officials who didn't bow to bribery often met violent ends. He assassinated candidates for office, judges, police officers, and reporters. He planted a bomb on an airplane to kill a candidate for president. The candidate was not on the plane, but 110 innocent people were. Ultimately, Escobar would be responsible for the deaths of over 4,000 people. That's all from our today's video. I hope you enjoyed our video. If you enjoyed our video, then give this video a big thumbs up. If you want us to cover any topic, then tell us in the comments section below. See you in the next video. Until then, it's goodbye from us.